What happens when a poor girl with only $5 meets a mysterious CEO at the worst moment of her life? This story will break your heart and rebuild it again. Stay with me until the end and comment which city you're watching from, so I can see how far this story has traveled across the world. The rain drummed against the windows of Romano's restaurant, like tiny fingers tapping out a funeral march. Clara Martinez pressed her face closer to the glass, watching each droplet race down the surface, as if they were tears she couldn't shed. Her reflection stared back hollow cheeks, tired eyes, and a dress that had seen better days 3 years ago. She glanced at her phone for the 100th time. 7:47 p.m. Marcus was now 47 minutes late. Maybe he's stuck in traffic, she whispered to herself, the words feeling like lies even as they left her lips. The $5 bill in her purse seemed to burn against her fingers as she touched it through the worn fabric. $5. That was all she had left in the world, until her next paycheck, and even that was questionable since the diner where she worked had been cutting hours. The hostess, a perfectly polished woman with sympathetic eyes, approached her table for the 3rd time. "Miss, are you sure you don't want to order something while you wait, maybe just a water?" Clara forced a smile that felt like breaking glass. "I'm fine, thank you. He'll be here soon." But even as she said it, her phone buzzed with a notification that made her blood turn to ice water. A message from Marcus, or rather from someone using Marcus's photos, she now realized she'd never actually video called with. "Sorry, babe, something came up. Rain check. You can pay for your own dinner tonight, LOL. Don't wait up." The words blurred as tears she'd been holding back for weeks finally spilled over. It wasn't just a cruel joke, it was the final nail in the coffin of her hope. She'd spent her last $15 on the subway to get here walking 8 blocks in the rain because she couldn't afford the cab fare. She'd skipped lunch again, saving every penny for this moment that was supposed to change everything. Clara's hands trembled as she tried to steady herself. Around her, the restaurant buzzed with life couples sharing intimate conversations over wine, families celebrating birthdays, friends laughing over shared appetizers. Everyone belonged somewhere. Everyone except her. "I need to go," she murmured, standing so quickly her chair scraped against the floor. A few nearby diners glanced over, and Clara felt heat flood her cheeks. She fumbled for her purse, desperate to escape before she completely fell apart in public. But as she turned toward the door, her foot caught on the chair leg. She stumbled, her purse flying open, and watched in horror as her precious $5 bill fluttered to the ground like a dying bird. It landed at the feet of a man in an expensive suit who was quietly dining alone at the corner table. "Oh God, I'm so sorry," Clara gasped, dropping to her knees to retrieve the money. Her hands shook as she reached for it, acutely aware of how pathetic she must look, a grown woman scrambling on the floor of an upscale restaurant for a crumpled $5 bill. The man bent down and picked up the money before she could reach it. Clara's eyes traveled up from his polished Italian leather shoes to his perfectly pressed charcoal suit, finally meeting his gaze. He had the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers, sharp jawline, piercing blue eyes, and dark hair, with just enough silver at the temples to suggest wisdom rather than age. But it was his expression that caught her off guard. There was no pity there, no condescension, just a quiet understanding that made her want to cry all over again. "This is yours," he said, his voice deep and warm like good whiskey. He held out the bill, but his eyes never left her face. Clara took the money with fingers that wouldn't stop shaking. "Thank you. I'm sorry for disturbing your dinner." "You didn't disturb anything." He paused, studying her with an intensity that made her feel both exposed and seen. "Bad night." A laugh escaped her throat, but it sounded more like a sob. You could say that. The man glanced at the empty chair across from her abandoned table, then back at her face. His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He stood you up. It wasn't a question, and Clara found herself nodding before she could stop herself. It's fine. I should have known better anyway. Should have known better than what? Than to think someone would actually want to. She trailed off, realizing she was about to pour her heart out to a complete stranger in the middle of a crowded restaurant. I'm sorry. You don't need to hear this. The man was quiet for a long moment, his eyes searching her face as if he was trying to solve a complex equation. Finally, he spoke. My name is Daniel. Daniel Blake. Clara, she whispered, not sure why she was telling him. Clara. He said her name like he was testing how it felt on his tongue. When was the last time you ate a real meal? The question was so unexpected, so gently asked, that Clara felt her defenses crumble. That's not... You don't need to... When Clara... She closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the past weeks pressing down on her shoulders. Tuesday. I had half a sandwich on Tuesday. Today was Friday. Daniel's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. A decision being made. Sit down. What? At my table. Sit down. Clara shook her head frantically. I can't. I don't have money for dinner, and I won't accept charity from a stranger. It's not charity. Daniel's voice was quiet but firm. It's dinner, and I'm not exactly a stranger anymore. I know your name, you know mine, and we both know you've had a terrible night. That's more than I know about half the people I have business dinners with. Despite everything, Clara felt a small smile tug at her lips. That's not really the same thing. Isn't it? Daniel pulled out the chair across from his own table. Look, Clara, I was going to eat alone anyway. I do it most nights. And honestly, you'd be doing me a favor. Eating alone in restaurants makes people look at you. You're either dangerous or pathetic. At least with you here, they'll just think I'm on a date. Clara hesitated, torn between her desperation and her pride. I really can't pay for anything. I'm not asking you to. Daniel's voice softened. I'm asking you to have dinner with me because no one should have to go hungry, and because I think we both could use the company. Something in his tone, not demanding, not pitying, just honest, broke through her resistance. Clara found herself walking toward his table on unsteady legs. She sat down across from him, acutely aware of how out of place she must look in her thrift store dress at a table that probably cost more than her monthly rent. This is really nice of you, but I don't understand why you're doing this, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel was quiet for a moment, his fingers absently turning his water glass. My daughter is 8 years old. Her name is Lily. He looked up at Clara, and she saw something raw and vulnerable in his eyes. A few months ago, she asked me what would happen if we didn't have money for food. I told her that would never happen, that I would always take care of her. But then she asked me what happens to people who don't have anyone to take care of them. Clara's throat tightened. What did you tell her? I told her that's why we have to look out for each other. That sometimes we get to be the person who takes care of someone else. Daniel signaled the waiter with a subtle gesture. Tonight, I get to be that person. And maybe someday, when you're in a position to help someone else, you'll remember this moment. The waiter appeared at their table, a young man with kind eyes, who seemed to sense the gravity of the moment. Good evening. Can I start you off with something to drink? 2 glasses of your house wine, Daniel said. Then turning to Clara. Unless you prefer something else. Clara shook her head, still trying to process what was happening. Wine is fine, thank you. As the waiter walked away, Daniel leaned back in his chair and studied her with those intense blue eyes. Tell me about yourself, Clara. What do you do when you're not being stood up by idiots? The question was so normal, so wonderfully ordinary, that Clara felt some of the tension leave her shoulders. I work at a diner downtown, Mickey's Place. It's not glamorous, but I like taking care of people, making sure they have a good meal, a kind word. She paused, then added quietly, At least I did like it. They've been cutting hours, and I'm not sure how much longer I'll have the job. What would you do if you could do anything? Clara looked down at her hands. You'll think it's silly. Try me. I want to be a nurse. The words came out in a rush, like she was afraid to hold on to them too long. I've been taking classes at the community college 1 or 2 at a time when I can afford it. I know it's taking forever, but I'm trying to do it without taking out loans I can't pay back. Daniel's expression grew thoughtful. That's not silly at all. It's admirable. Most people aren't willing to work that hard for their dreams. Most people have better options than I do. Maybe. Or maybe most people aren't as strong as you are. Clara looked up at him sharply. You don't know anything about me. I know you're here dressed up and hopeful despite the fact that you haven't eaten in 3 days. I know you apologized for dropping money you desperately need, and you're sitting here having dinner with a stranger because you're brave enough to accept help when you need it. Daniel's voice was steady, certain. I know you're working multiple jobs while going to school to become a nurse, which means you want to spend your life taking care of other people. And I know that whoever stood you up tonight is the biggest fool in this city. Clara felt tears prick her eyes again, but this time they weren't tears of despair. You're very kind. I'm very honest. Daniel smiled, and it transformed his entire face. There's a difference. The waiter returned with their wine, and Daniel ordered for both of them the pasta special for Clara and salmon for himself. Clara wanted to protest, to insist he was doing too much, but the smell of food from nearby tables was making her stomach cramp with hunger. So what about you? She asked, taking a sip of wine that tasted like heaven after weeks of nothing but water and cheap coffee. What do you do when you're not rescuing random women in restaurants? Daniel's smile turned wry. I run a company, Blake Industries. We develop software for hospitals and medical facilities. Clara nearly choked on her wine. Blake Industries was one of the biggest tech companies in the state. She'd seen their name on job postings that required degrees she didn't have, and experience she couldn't afford to get. You're that Daniel Blake. Guilty. He didn't seem pleased by the recognition. But tonight I'm just Daniel having dinner with Clara. Is that okay? There was something almost vulnerable in the way he asked, as if her answer mattered more than it should. Clara nodded. Yeah, that's okay. Their food arrived, and Clara had to force herself not to eat too quickly. The pasta was perfect, rich and creamy and warm in a way that seemed to reach all the cold, empty places inside her. Daniel ate slowly, asking her questions about her classes, her dreams, her life before things got so difficult. Clara found herself telling him things she hadn't told anyone about her parents, who'd died in a car accident 2 years ago, leaving her with nothing but debt and grief. About the jobs she'd lost when she couldn't afford reliable transportation. About the nights she'd lain awake wondering if she was fooling herself, thinking she could ever make something better of her life. After they died, I kept thinking someone would come along and fix everything, she said, twirling pasta around her fork. Like in the movies, you know, someone would show up and say, "Don't worry, we'll take care of everything." But nobody came. Nobody was coming. It was just me. Daniel was quiet for a long moment. That's terrifying. What is, realizing you're completely on your own, that everything depends on you. He met her eyes across the table. But it's also powerful, isn't it? Knowing that you're strong enough to survive it. Clara considered this. I don't feel strong most of the time. I feel scared. Fear and strength aren't opposites, Clara. They're partners. The strongest people I know are the ones who are afraid and do what needs to be done anyway. As they talked, Clara began to notice small details about Daniel that didn't fit her mental image of a tech CEO. His hands were strong but gentle, with a small scar across his left knuckle. He listened when she spoke, really listened, asking follow-up questions that showed he was paying attention. When she mentioned her favorite book, a battered copy of Jane Eyre she'd read a dozen times, his face lit up with genuine interest. Charlotte Bronte knew something about strong women facing impossible circumstances, he said. You've read it. I read it to Lily last year. She said she wanted to read big kid books like the ones I read for work. Daniel's expression softened when he talked about his daughter. She fell asleep during the 3rd chapter, but she made me promise to tell her how it ended. And did you? I told her that Jane found someone who saw her for who she really was, and that sometimes the best love stories are about 2 people saving each other. Clara felt her heart do something complicated in her chest. That's a good way to put it. Lily thought so too. She said that's the kind of love story she wants when she grows up. Daniel paused, his fingers absently tracing the rim of his wine glass. Her mother died when she was 4. Cancer. Lily doesn't remember much about her, but she remembers that her mother always said love should make you feel like you're home. I'm sorry, Clara said softly. That must have been incredibly difficult. It was. It still is some days. Daniel's voice was quiet but steady. You learn to carry grief differently over time. It becomes part of you instead of something that's destroying you. But raising a daughter alone, there are days when I feel like I'm failing her in ways I can't even see. Clara reached across the table without thinking, her fingers briefly touching his hand. I doubt that. From the way you talk about her, it's clear she's the most important thing in your world. Daniel looked down at their joined hands, then back up at her face. She is. She's everything. They sat like that for a moment, connected by shared understanding and the strange intimacy that sometimes blooms between strangers who've seen each other's vulnerabilities. Clara was the first to pull away, suddenly aware of how forward she must seem. I should probably go, she said, though she didn't want to. For the first time in months, she felt like herself again, not just someone struggling to survive, but a person with thoughts and dreams and something to offer. You've been incredibly kind, but I don't want to take up your whole evening. Clara. Daniel's voice stopped her as she started to stand. I want to ask you something, and I need you to know I'm not asking because I pity you or because I think you owe me anything. Clara sat back down, her heart suddenly racing. Okay. My company has a scholarship program for students pursuing careers in healthcare. Full tuition plus a living stipend. Daniel spoke carefully, as if he was trying not to spook a wild animal. We've had trouble finding qualified candidates who really understand what it means to serve others. People who've worked in service industries, who know what it's like to take care of people who can't always take care of themselves. Clara's mouth went dry. Daniel, I can't. You can't what? You can't accept help. You can't believe that you deserve a chance to pursue your dreams. Daniel leaned forward, his eyes intense. Clara, you've been taking care of people your whole life. You work at a diner making sure people have good meals, You're going to school to become a nurse so you can take care of people when they're sick and scared. You deserve to have someone take care of you for once." Tears were streaming down Clara's face now, and she didn't care who saw them. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know me." "I know enough." Daniel's voice was gentle but certain. "I know you're exactly the kind of person we created that scholarship for. And selfishly, I know that Lily needs to see that good things happen to good people. That kindness matters. That we help each other." Clara pressed her hands to her face, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what he was offering. "I don't understand how this is real. Sometimes the best things happen when we least expect them." Daniel reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card, writing something on the back. "This is my personal number. Think about it over the weekend. If you're interested, call me Monday and we'll set up a meeting with our scholarship committee." Clara took the card with shaking hands. "What if I'm not good enough? What if I don't deserve this?" "Clara." Daniel waited until she looked at him. "What if you are? What if you do?" She stared at the card, at this impossible lifeline that had appeared out of nowhere. "I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you're working as a nurse taking care of people who need you." Daniel smiled. "And maybe if you want to, you can have dinner with Lily and me sometime. She's been asking me to bring home a friend. She thinks I'm too serious all the time. She says I need someone to laugh with." Daniel's expression grew thoughtful. She might be right about that. Clara felt something warm and hopeful unfurling in her chest. "I'd like that. Having dinner with you and Lily." "Good." Daniel signaled for the check. "Should I drive you home? It's still raining pretty hard out there." Clara looked toward the windows where the rain was indeed still coming down in sheets. The thought of riding in a warm car instead of walking 8 blocks in the cold rain was almost overwhelmingly appealing, but something held her back. "That's really kind of you, but I think I need to walk. I need time to think about all of this." She gestured between them at the business card, at the evening that had changed everything. "I need to process what just happened." Daniel nodded, understanding flickering in his eyes. "I get that. But take this." He pulled off his suit jacket and held it out to her. "It's waterproof and you'll freeze in that dress." "I can't take your jacket. You can give it back to me when you call on Monday." Daniel stood and helped her into the jacket, which was warm from his body heat and smelled like expensive cologne and something indefinably masculine. "Besides, this way I know you'll call." Clara looked up at him, this man who had appeared in her life like something out of a fairy tale. "How do you know I will?" "Because you're braver than you think you are." Daniel's voice was soft, certain. "And because I think you want this as much as I want to give it to you." They walked to the restaurant entrance together, and Daniel held the door open for her. The rain had gentled to a steady drizzle, and the city lights reflected off the wet pavement like scattered jewels. "Clara." Daniel caught her hand as she stepped outside. "Whatever happens with the scholarship, whatever you decide tonight, mattered. You matter." Clara felt her heart break and heal simultaneously. "So do you, Daniel. You and Lily both." She walked away without looking back, afraid that if she did, she might never leave. Daniel's jacket kept her warm as she made her way through the rain-soaked streets, her mind reeling with everything that had happened. 3 hours ago, she had been a woman with $5 and no hope. Now she was walking home with a business card that could change her life, and the memory of blue eyes that had seen something in her worth saving. As she reached her tiny apartment, a studio in a building that had seen better decades, Clara pulled out her phone and looked at Daniel's business card. His personal number was written in strong, confident handwriting across the back. She thought about Lily, the little girl who wanted her father to have someone to laugh with. She thought about Daniel eating alone in restaurants because he was too busy taking care of everyone else to take care of himself. She thought about the scholarship, about the possibility of finishing school without drowning in debt, about becoming the nurse she'd dreamed of being since she was a child. Most of all, she thought about the way Daniel had looked at her, not like she was broken or pitiful, but like she was someone worth knowing, someone worth helping, someone who mattered. Clara hung up Daniel's jacket carefully in her tiny closet and sat down on her second-hand couch. Tomorrow, she would call him. Tomorrow, she would take the first step toward a future she had barely dared to imagine. But tonight, she just sat in the quiet of her small apartment and marveled at how quickly everything could change. How one terrible night could become the beginning of something beautiful. How sometimes when you least expected it, someone could walk into your life and remind you that you were not alone in the world. Outside, the rain continued to fall, washing the city clean for whatever tomorrow might bring. Clara stared at Daniel's business card until the numbers blurred together, her fingers tracing the embossed lettering of Blake Industries. The rain had stopped sometime during the night, but she could still hear phantom droplets in her mind, the same rhythm that had accompanied her walk home from the restaurant that had changed everything. Monday morning arrived gray and uncertain, matching the knot of anxiety in Clara's stomach. She'd rehearsed what she would say to Daniel 100 times, but every scenario ended with her tongue-tied and stammering. At exactly 9 a.m., she dialed his personal number with fingers that wouldn't stop shaking. Daniel Blake. His voice was professional, distant, nothing like the warm man who had shared dinner with her Friday night. Daniel? It's Clara. Clara Martinez. From the restaurant. She winced at how small her voice sounded. The change in his tone was immediate, like sunlight breaking through clouds. Clara, I was hoping you'd call. How are you feeling about everything? Terrified, she admitted, then laughed nervously. But also hopeful. I've been thinking about what you said about the scholarship. And Clara closed her eyes, gathering her courage. I want to try. I want to apply, if you think I have a chance. I know you have a chance. Daniel's voice was warm with conviction. Can you come in today, say around 2 o'clock? I'd like you to meet Sarah Chen, our Director of Community Outreach. She oversees the scholarship program. Today, Clara's voice pitched higher. I don't know if I'm ready. Clara. Daniel's voice was gentle but firm. You're as ready as you'll ever be. And sometimes the best opportunities come when we feel least prepared for them. 3 hours later, Clara stood in the gleaming lobby of Blake Industries, feeling like a fraud, in her only professional outfit, a navy blazer she'd bought at Goodwill and pants that were slightly too long. The building was all glass and steel and modern art that probably cost more than her yearly salary. Everyone who walked past looked like they belonged in a magazine spread about successful people. Clara Martinez, a woman with kind eyes and an elegant black suit, approached her. I'm Sarah Chen. Daniel's told me wonderful things about you. Sarah led her to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Daniel was already there, looking every inch the CEO in a perfectly tailored suit. But when he saw Clara, his formal expression melted into something genuine and warm. How are you feeling? He asked, rising to pull out her chair. Like I'm about to faint, Clara admitted, then immediately regretted her honesty. Sarah laughed a sound like silver bells. Good. The best candidates are always nervous. It means you understand how important this is. For the next hour, they asked Clara about her goals, her experience, her vision for her future in healthcare. She found herself talking about the elderly customers at Mickey's Diner who reminded her of her grandmother about the satisfaction she felt when she could make someone's difficult day a little brighter, about her dream of working in pediatric nursing, where she could help children feel safe and cared for. "You mentioned you've been taking classes part-time," Sarah said, consulting a tablet. "What's been your biggest challenge so far?" Clara felt heat rise in her cheeks. "Honestly, just staying enrolled. There have been semesters when I couldn't afford the tuition, so I had to drop out and work extra shifts to save up for the next semester. It's taken me 3 years to complete what should have been 1 year of prerequisites." "That must be incredibly frustrating," Daniel said quietly. "Sometimes." Clara met his eyes across the table. "But it's also taught me that nothing worthwhile comes easy. Every class I've managed to complete feels like a victory." Sarah and Daniel exchanged a look that Clara couldn't quite interpret. Sarah made a note on her tablet, then smiled. "Clara, I'm going to be direct with you. This scholarship covers full tuition plus a monthly stipend of $2,000 for living expenses. In exchange, you'll work 10 hours a week in our employee wellness clinic, gaining hands-on experience while you complete your degree. After graduation, we'd like you to consider a position with our corporate health services team, though there's no binding commitment." Clara's vision blurred around the edges. $2,000 a month. Full tuition. It was more money than she'd ever seen at one time, enough to not just survive, but actually live. "I don't understand. Why me? There have to be hundreds of more qualified candidates." "There are hundreds of candidates with better grades," Daniel said. "But grades don't tell us about character. They don't tell us about someone who works 3 jobs while going to school, who sacrifices everything for her dreams, who still has the energy to care about other people despite everything she's going through herself." "The scholarship was created in memory of my daughter Emma," Sarah added softly. "She wanted to be a doctor to help children who were sick like she was. She believed that the best healers are the ones who understand what it means to suffer, to struggle, to keep going when everything seems impossible." Clara felt tears slip down her cheeks before she could stop them. "I'm sorry. I don't usually cry in professional meetings." "You should see me at budget meetings," Daniel said dryly, earning a laugh from Sarah. "Tears are definitely involved." Sarah reached across the table and squeezed Clara's hand. "Clara, if you accept this scholarship, you won't just be pursuing your degree. You'll be carrying forward Emma's dream of making sure the best and most compassionate people become the healers our world needs." "I accept," Clara whispered, then cleared her throat and said it louder. "I accept. Thank you, both of you. I don't know how to express what this means to me." "You don't have to," Daniel said. "Just promise me you'll remember this feeling when you're knee-deep in organic chemistry homework and wondering if you've made a terrible mistake." Clara laughed through her tears. "I promise." 2 weeks later, Clara found herself walking across the campus of State University as a full-time student for the first time in her life. The feeling was surreal, carrying textbooks she'd actually purchased new instead of borrowing worn copies from the library, sitting in lectures without worrying about whether she could afford to stay enrolled next semester. Her phone buzzed during her lunch break. A text from Daniel. "How's your first day going? Lily wants to know if you've made any friends yet." Clara smiled as she typed back, "Tell Lily that I sat next to a girl in chemistry who offered to share her notes, so I think I'm off to a good start. How is she doing? Excited about our dinner plans this weekend. She's been planning the menu since Tuesday. Fair warning, she's decided we're having breakfast for dinner because she read that mixing things up keeps life interesting." Breakfast for dinner sounds perfect. Can I bring anything? Just yourself. And maybe some stories about college life. Lily's convinced all college students live like they do in movies. I'll try not to disappoint her. You couldn't if you tried. Saturday evening found Clara standing outside Daniel's brownstone in a neighborhood that screamed old money and established families. The building was elegant without being ostentatious ivy climbing up red brick walls, wrought iron details, windows that glowed with warm yellow light. She almost turned around 3 times before finally working up the courage to knock. Daniel opened the door wearing jeans and a sweater that made him look younger, more approachable. Clara, right on time. I brought flowers, she said, holding out a small bouquet of daisies she'd picked up at the corner market. I wasn't sure what 8-year-olds like. She'll love them. Daisies are actually her favorite. Daniel's smile was soft with something that might have been affection. Come in. Lily's in the kitchen, and I should warn you she's been practicing her pancake flipping technique all afternoon. The inside of Daniel's home was nothing like what Clara had expected. Instead of cold minimalism or intimidating luxury, it was warm and lived in. Children's artwork covered the refrigerator. Books were stacked on every available surface, and comfortable furniture invited you to sink in and stay a while. You must be Clara. A small voice piped up from the kitchen doorway. Clara turned to see a miniature version of Daniel, the same dark hair and blue eyes, but with an expression of pure, uncomplicated joy. Daddy said you're going to be a nurse and that you like to take care of people just like Mommy did. Clara's heart clenched at the casual way Lily mentioned her mother, as if keeping her memory alive was as natural as breathing. That's right. I'm very excited to meet you, Lily. Your dad has told me so many wonderful things about you. He told me wonderful things about you, too. Lily grabbed Clara's hand with the confidence of a child who had never been given reason to distrust the world. Come see our kitchen. I'm making the pancakes tonight because I'm getting really good at it. The kitchen was clearly the heart of the home, a large island covered with homework and art supplies, copper pots hanging from hooks, family photos scattered across the counter. Lily had already started mixing pancake batter, her tongue poking out in concentration as she stirred. Lily takes her cooking very seriously, Daniel said, leaning against the counter with his arms crossed. She's been watching cooking shows and taking notes. The secret is not to overmix the batter, Lily said solemnly. And you have to let it rest for 5 minutes so the gluten can relax. I don't know what gluten is, but apparently it gets stressed out easily. Clara burst out laughing. That's very wise. I never knew gluten was so high-strung. Right. It seems like gluten needs to learn some coping strategies. Lily looked up at Clara with serious blue eyes. Do you cook? I do, but probably not as well as you. Most of my cooking involves trying to make cheap ingredients taste good. Daddy says the best cooks are the ones who can make anything taste good with just a little creativity, Lily said, then paused thoughtfully. He also says that's true about life, that creative people can make good things out of not-so-good situations. Clara glanced at Daniel, who was watching his daughter with an expression of pure adoration mixed with something that looked like pride. Your daddy sounds very smart. He is, and he's been much happier since he met you. Lily said this with the casual honesty of childhood, apparently unaware of the way both adults froze. He smiles more now, and he hums sometimes when he's making coffee in the morning. Daniel cleared his throat, his cheeks slightly pink. Lily, maybe we should focus on not burning down the kitchen tonight. I'm not going to burn down the kitchen, Daddy. I'm 8, not 5. Lily rolled her eyes with exaggerated exasperation. Clara, do you want to help me flip the pancakes? Daddy's scared I'm going to get batter on the ceiling again. That happened one time, Daniel protested. It was a really big splatter, Lily informed Clara conspiratorially. We had to repaint. Clara spent the next hour in the most domestic bliss she'd experienced since her parents died. Lily chattered constantly, asking questions about college and nursing, and whether Clara had ever seen anyone's bones. She was going through a skeleton phase, according to Daniel. They made pancakes and bacon, Lily insisting that Clara try her special technique for achieving perfectly crispy edges. The trick is patience, Lily explained carefully, monitoring the bacon in the pan. You can't rush it, or it gets all chewy and sad. Good food takes time. Where did you learn to be so wise? Clara asked. From Daddy, and from Mommy's cookbook. She wrote notes in all the margins about how cooking is like loving people. You have to pay attention and not try to hurry it. Clara felt her throat tighten with emotion. She glanced at Daniel, who was watching his daughter with an expression of bittersweet love. Your mommy sounds like she was a very special person, Clara said softly. She was. Lily's voice was matter-of-fact without the heavy sadness Clara had expected. I don't remember her face very much anymore, but I remember how she smelled like vanilla and flowers. And Daddy tells me stories about her all the time, so it's like she's still part of our family. Daniel moved to stand behind his daughter, his hands resting gently on her shoulders. Mommy would have liked Clara very much, he said quietly. I know. Lily beamed up at Clara. Because Clara has kind eyes like Mommy did, and she laughs at my jokes. Over dinner, Clara learned that Lily was reading at a 5th grade level, played violin, and had strong opinions about everything from the best color for nail polish, purple, obviously, to why cats were superior to dogs, more independent and better at keeping secrets. She was funny and bright, and completely unself-conscious in the way only children can be. Clara, do you have any brothers or sisters? Lily asked, swirling syrup on her pancakes in elaborate patterns. No, it was just me and my parents. They died a couple of years ago. Lily's face grew serious. That must make you very sad. Sometimes it does. But talking about them helps, just like how your daddy talks about your mommy. Would you tell me about them? Clara found herself sharing stories about her parents, her father's terrible jokes, her mother's habit of singing while she cooked the way they used to dance in the kitchen while dinner was cooking. Lily listened with the intense focus children reserve for stories that matter to them. They sound like they were really good at loving you, Lily said when Clara finished. They were. Clara smiled through the tears she hadn't realized were falling. They were very good at that. After dinner, Lily insisted on showing Clara her room, which was an explosion of books, art supplies, and stuffed animals. The walls were covered with her drawings, elaborate scenes of families and houses and gardens filled with impossibly large flowers. This one is my favorite, Lily said, pointing to a picture of 3 stick figures standing in front of a house. That's me and Daddy and Mommy. Even though she's not here anymore, she's still part of our family picture. Clara studied the drawing, noting how young Lily had drawn herself, between her parents, all 3 figures holding hands. It's beautiful, Lily. I've been thinking about drawing a new one, Lily said quietly, with 4 people instead of 3. Do you think that would be okay? Clara's heart stopped. She glanced toward the doorway where Daniel was standing, his expression unreadable. I think that would be okay if it felt right to you, but you should probably talk to your daddy about it first. I already did. Lily looked over at her father. Daddy said that families can grow in different ways and that love doesn't run out when you share it with more people. Daniel stepped into the room, his eyes soft. I said that love multiplies when you share it. Remember, like how loving Clara doesn't mean we love Mommy any less. Clara felt her breath catch in her throat. Daniel had just said he loved her casually and naturally in front of his daughter. The moment felt too big and too precious to fully process. Exactly, Lily said, satisfied. So I'm going to draw a new family picture with all four of us. Clara, what's your favorite color? I want to make sure I get your dress right. Blue, Clara managed to say. I like blue. Like Daddy's eyes, Lily observed. That's good. You'll match. An hour later, after Lily had been tucked into bed with elaborate rituals involving 3 different stuffed animals and a story about a brave little girl who befriended a dragon, Clara and Daniel sat on his couch with glasses of wine and the comfortable silence of 2 people who had shared something meaningful. She's incredible, Clara said softly. You've done such a beautiful job raising her. We've done a beautiful job, Daniel corrected gently. Her mother gave her the foundation. I'm just trying not to mess it up. You're not messing anything up. She's happy and confident and kind. She feels safe to love people and trust them. That's because of you. Daniel was quiet for a long moment, his fingers absently tracing patterns on his wine glass. Can I tell you something? Of course. I was terrified to bring you here tonight, not because I didn't want you to meet Lily, but because I was afraid of what it would mean. Daniel looked at her, his eyes serious. Rachel's been gone for 4 years, and in all that time I've never brought a woman home. I've never wanted to. The thought of Lily getting attached to someone who might leave. I understand, Clara said quietly. But with you, it felt different. It felt right. Daniel reached over and took her hand. Lily asked me last week if I was going to marry you. Clara's heart started beating so fast, she was sure Daniel could hear it. What did you tell her? I told her that sometimes grown-ups need time to figure out their feelings, but that I cared about you very much, and I hoped you'd be part of our lives for a long time. Daniel's thumb traced across her knuckles. Was that okay to say? More than okay. Clara turned to face him fully. Daniel, I need you to know that I've never felt about anyone the way I feel about you. You saved me in that restaurant, but it's more than that. You saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. I saw who you really are, who you've always been. I love you. Clara whispered the words falling out before she could stop them. I love you, and I love Lily, and I love the family you've built, and the life you've created. I know it's too soon to say that, but... Daniel silenced her with a kiss that tasted like wine and possibility. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. It's not too soon. I love you too, Clara. I think I started falling in love with you the moment you apologized for dropping that $5 bill. That's a very specific moment to fall in love. It was a very specific night. Daniel smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. The night everything changed. They talked until nearly midnight, sharing stories and dreams and fears with the intimacy of people who had found something worth holding on to. When Daniel walked Clara to the door, she was wearing his jacket again, not because it was raining, but because she wasn't quite ready to let go of the evening. Clara, Daniel said, as she stepped onto the front porch, would you like to have breakfast with us tomorrow? Lily's been experimenting with French toast. I'd love that. Clara stood on her tiptoes and kissed him softly. Thank you for tonight, for everything. Thank you for being brave enough to answer when I called. Daniel's voice was soft with emotion. Thank you for taking a chance on us. As Clara walked home through the quiet streets, she thought about the family picture Lily wanted to draw, 4 people holding hands, connected by love and choice and the beautiful complexity of hearts that had learned to heal. 3 months ago, she had been alone in the world, with $5 and no hope. Now she was part of something bigger than herself, something that felt like home. Her phone buzzed with a text from Daniel. Sweet dreams, Clara. Lily wants to know if you prefer your French toast with powdered sugar or syrup. Clara typed back both. Definitely both. Tell Lily I'll see her in the morning. She says to bring your appetite and a good story. Apparently, breakfast conversation is very important in this family. I'll think of something good. I love you, Daniel. I love you too. Sleep well. Clara tucked her phone into her purse and quickened her pace, suddenly eager to get home so tomorrow could come faster. She had French toast to look forward to and stories to tell, and a family that was still learning how to be a family together. The morning sunlight streaming through Daniel's kitchen windows felt different somehow, warmer and more golden than Clara remembered from her own tiny apartment. She arrived at 8:30 sharp, carrying a small bag of fresh strawberries she'd splurged on at the corner market, her heart doing complicated things in her chest as she approached the front door she was beginning to think of as familiar. Clara! Lily's voice rang out before Clara could even knock. The door swung open to reveal the 8-year-old in polka-dot pajamas and an apron that was clearly too big for her. I've been watching for you from the window. Daddy said that's not polite, but I was too excited to care about politeness this morning. Good morning, sweetheart. Clara held up the bag of strawberries. I brought reinforcements for the French toast. Strawberries? Lily's eyes went wide with delight. Those are perfect. Daddy was worried we didn't have enough fruit, and I told him that Clara would probably bring something, because that's what people do when they care about each other. Daniel appeared in the hallway behind his daughter, his hair still slightly mussed from sleep, and wearing a Stanford t-shirt that had seen better days. The sight of him looking so relaxed and domestic made Clara's stomach flutter in ways she was still getting used to. Good morning, he said, his voice warm with something that might have been contentment. I see Lily's already put you to work. I volunteered. Clara stepped inside, breathing in the smell of vanilla and coffee that was becoming the scent of home to her. How did the French toast experiment go? We had one minor catastrophe involving too much cinnamon, Daniel admitted, leading her toward the kitchen. But Lily problem-solved like a champion. She decided we should call it extra spiced French toast and market it as intentional. Innovation through necessity, Clara said solemnly. That's the sign of a true chef. Lily beamed at the praise, then grabbed Clara's hand. Come see what we're making. I've been practicing my egg cracking technique, and I only got shells in the bowl twice this time. The kitchen was a beautiful chaos of cooking supplies and family life. Lily had clearly been busy. There were bowls and whisks scattered across the counter, a carton of eggs with 2 cracked shells sitting beside it, and what appeared to be an entire container of cinnamon spilled near the stove. It looks like you've been very productive, Clara observed. Daddy says cooking is supposed to be messy, because that means you're being creative, Lily said, starting to slice the strawberries with careful concentration. But he also says we have to clean up after ourselves, because creativity without responsibility is just chaos. Your daddy is very wise, Clara said, catching Daniel's eye over Lily's head. He was watching them both with an expression she was learning to recognize, a mix of love and wonder, as if he couldn't quite believe this was his life now. Can I tell you a secret? Lily whispered conspiratorially, leaning closer to Clara. Of course. Daddy's been humming again this morning. The same song he was humming yesterday and the day before. I think it's his happy song. Clara glanced at Daniel, who had suddenly become very interested in checking the coffee. Does your daddy have a happy song? He didn't used to, but now he does, and it started after he met you. Lily's voice carried the matter-of-fact wisdom that children sometimes possessed. I asked him about it, and he said that sometimes when people are really happy, Music just comes out of them without them thinking about it. That's a beautiful way to think about it, Clara said softly. I think so too. I've been trying to hum happy songs, but I'm not as good at it as Daddy is. Daniel returned to their side of the kitchen, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Here, Clara. I remembered you like it with just a little cream. The fact that he had remembered such a small detail from their dinner conversations made Clara's heart skip. Thank you. Okay, Lily announced, clapping her flour-covered hands together. It's time for the French toast assembly line. Clara, you're in charge of dipping the bread in the egg mixture. Daddy, you handle the pan because I'm not allowed to touch the stove without supervision. And I'll be the quality control manager. What does a quality control manager do? Clara asked, already moving to her assigned station. I taste everything to make sure it's delicious, Lily said seriously. It's a very important job. They fell into an easy rhythm, working together in the kitchen, like they'd been doing it for years instead of minutes. Clara dipped thick slices of challah bread into Lily's expertly mixed egg and cream mixture, while Daniel manned the stove, flipping golden brown pieces of French toast with practiced ease. Lily darted between them, offering commentary and stealing tastes whenever she thought the adults weren't looking. Clara, Lily said during a brief lull while they waited for the last batch to cook. Can I ask you something kind of personal? Sure, honey. Do you think you'll want to have kids someday? Like your own kids, not just spending time with me. Clara felt her breath catch. It was such an innocent question, but loaded with implications that made her acutely aware of Daniel's sudden stillness at the stove. I think I would like that very much. Someday. Good. Lily nodded with satisfaction. Because I think you'd be a really good mom. You listen when people talk, and you don't get impatient when I ask lots of questions, and you know how to make people feel better when they're sad. Thank you, sweetheart. That's one of the nicest compliments anyone's ever given me. I have good judgment about people, Lily said matter-of-factly. Daddy taught me to pay attention to how people treat others, especially people who can't do anything for them. He says that tells you everything you need to know about someone's character. Clara glanced at Daniel, who was focused intently on the French toast, but listening to every word. Your daddy is right about that. I know. He's right about most things. Lily paused thoughtfully. Except for his opinion on cats versus dogs. He's totally wrong about that. What's his position on cats versus dogs? Clara asked, amused. He thinks dogs are better because they're loyal and protective. But I think cats are better because they choose to love you instead of just loving everyone automatically. Lily looked between Clara and her father with the shrewd intelligence of a child who understood more than adults sometimes gave her credit for. Kind of like how the best people are the ones who choose to stick around, even when things get difficult. The weight of Lily's observations settled over the kitchen like a comfortable blanket. Clara realized the little girl was talking about more than just pets. She was talking about the kind of love that was built on choice and commitment, rather than just emotion. I think you might be onto something there, Clara said quietly. I usually am, Lily replied with complete confidence. Daddy says I get my wisdom from my mom, and my stubbornness from him. A dangerous combination, Daniel said, finally turning from the stove with a plate full of perfectly golden French toast. The best kind, Lily grinned. They ate breakfast at the kitchen island, passing around syrup and powdered sugar, while Lily regaled them with stories from school and her latest violin lesson. The conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter and the comfortable silences that marked true intimacy. Clara, Lily said, as they were finishing up, would you like to see my mom's garden? Daddy and I have been taking care of it, but I think she would have liked you to see it. Clara felt her throat tighten with emotion. I would be honored to see it. The garden was in the small backyard behind Daniel's brownstone, a carefully tended space filled with roses and lavender and herbs that scented the morning air. There was a small stone bench positioned to catch the morning sun, and Clara could easily imagine Rachel sitting there planning her plantings and watching her daughter play. Mom planted this before I was born, Lily explained, leading Clara down a gravel path between raised beds. She said she wanted me to grow up knowing where beautiful things come from, that they take time and care and patience. She was right about that, Clara said, kneeling down to smell a particularly fragrant rose bush. Daddy doesn't have as good of a green thumb as Mom did, but we're learning together. Sometimes we make mistakes and plants die, but Mom always said that's part of gardening too. You can't be afraid of failure if you want to grow beautiful things. Daniel joined them on the path, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. Rachel would spend hours out here. Lily was barely walking, but she'd toddle around between the plants while Rachel worked. Some of my favorite memories are of the two of them, covered in dirt, completely happy. She sounds like she was an incredible woman, Clara said softly. She was. Daniel's voice was warm with memory rather than grief. She would have loved you, Clara. She always said that the best people are the ones who understand that love isn't finite, that caring for someone new doesn't diminish what you felt for someone else. Lily had wandered over to a small section of the garden that was clearly hers, sunflowers and marigolds planted in cheerful, slightly chaotic rows. I planted these myself, she called out proudly. Mom's flowers are all elegant and planned out, but mine are just happy and colorful. They're perfect, Clara said, meaning it. They look exactly like flowers an 8-year-old should plant. Daddy helped me design this section after Mom got sick. She told me that gardens are like families. They're most beautiful when they have room for everyone to be themselves. Lily looked up at Clara with serious blue eyes. I think that's true about our family too. We have room for you to be yourself. Clara felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you, Lily. That means more to me than you know. They spent another hour in the garden, Lily showing Clara each plant and sharing the stories behind them. Daniel mostly listened occasionally, adding details or correcting Lily's more creative interpretations of gardening science. Clara found herself thinking about roots and growth, about how the most beautiful things often came from the most unexpected places. As they headed back inside, Lily slipped her small hand into Clara's. Clara, can I ask you another personal question? Always. Do you think you'll want to live with us someday, not right now, because Daddy says adults need to take things slow, but maybe someday? Clara's heart stopped. She looked over Lily's head at Daniel, who was watching them both with an expression of careful hope. I think I would like that very much, Clara said, carefully. But that's a decision that would involve all three of us talking about it together. I know. I just wanted to make sure you weren't completely against the idea. Lily squeezed Clara's hand, because I've been thinking about it a lot, and I think we could be a really good family together. I think we already are a really good family together, Clara said softly. Yeah, Lily agreed with satisfaction. We really are. The rest of the morning passed in a haze of domestic contentment. They cleaned the kitchen together, Lily insisting that Clara needed to learn the proper way to load the dishwasher according to family standards. Daniel made more coffee and read the Sunday paper, while Clara and Lily worked on a jigsaw puzzle at the kitchen table. Around noon, Lily announced that she was going to her room to work on her new family drawing, leaving Clara and Daniel alone for the first time all morning. They settled on the couch in the living room, Clara curled against Daniel's side with a natural ease that still surprised her. She really loves you, Daniel said quietly, his fingers playing with Clara's hair. I love her too. More than I expected to, honestly. Clara tilted her head to look at him. Is that okay that I love her so much so quickly? It's more than okay. It's perfect. Daniel's voice was soft with emotion. Clara, I need to tell you something. That sounds serious. It is serious. Good serious, I think, but serious. Daniel shifted so he could see her face clearly. I've been thinking about what Lily said about living together someday. And I know it's too soon to be having this conversation, but I can't stop thinking about it. Clara's heart started beating faster. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that I've never felt this way about anyone, not even Rachel, and that terrifies me and excites me in equal measure. Daniel's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining naturally. I'm thinking that Lily has never taken to anyone the way she's taken to you, and that her instincts about people have never been wrong. Daniel, I'm thinking that I want to wake up every morning knowing you're going to be part of our day, and that I want to go to sleep every night with you beside me. His voice grew softer, more vulnerable. I'm thinking that I want to marry you, Clara. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday, when you're ready, and when we've had time to be sure. But I wanted you to know that's where my heart is heading. Clara felt like all the air had been sucked out of her lungs. Are you proposing to me? No, Daniel said quickly, then laughed. Well, not exactly. I'm telling you that I'm going to propose to you. Eventually. When the time is right. I just wanted you to know, so you can tell me if that's completely insane or if it's something you might want too. Clara stared at him for a long moment. This man who had saved her life in more ways than one, who had given her a scholarship and a future and a family she never could have imagined. You want to marry me? She said slowly, as if testing how the words sounded. I want to marry you, Daniel confirmed. I want to adopt you into this crazy little family officially. I want Lily to be your stepdaughter, and I want us to give her siblings, and I want to grow old with you in that garden out back. What if I'm not ready? What if I need time? Then we take time, as much as you need. Daniel's voice was steady, certain. Clara, I'm not going anywhere. Neither is Lily. We're here for as long as you want us. Clara felt tears spill down her cheeks, but they were happy tears this time. I want that too, all of it. I want to marry you and be Lily's stepmom and have babies with you and grow old together. I want everything. Daniel kissed her, then soft and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. So we're doing this, we're building a life together. We're already building a life together, Clara corrected. We have been since that first night at the restaurant. You're right. Daniel smiled, the expression transforming his entire face. We're just making it official. Eventually, Clara added with a laugh. Eventually, Daniel agreed. When you're finished with school and when Lily's had time to get used to the idea, and when we've figured out all the practical details. Like where we'll live. You'll live here, obviously. This is Lily's home and her mother's garden is here. Besides, Daniel's eyes twinkled with mischief. You've already learned the proper way to load the dishwasher. You're practically family already. They were interrupted by the sound of footsteps thundering down the stairs. Lily appeared in the living room doorway, slightly out of breath, and holding a piece of paper. I finished my drawing, she announced. Do you want to see it? We'd love to see it, Clara said, sitting up straighter. Lily approached the couch with unusual solemnity and held out her artwork. It was a drawing of 4 people standing in front of a house, but this time the figures were more detailed, more carefully rendered. Clara could see herself in the drawing dark hair, blue dress, holding hands with both Daniel and Lily. In the background, there was a garden full of flowers and what looked like a swing set. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," Daniel said softly. "I added some things we don't have yet," Lily explained. "Like the swing set because I think Clara would like to push me on swings. And I drew all of us in the garden because I think Clara should learn how to garden too." "I would love to learn how to garden," Clara said, her voice thick with emotion. "Good. And I drew us holding hands because that's what families do. They stick together even when things get hard." Lily looked between Clara and her father with the serious expression she wore when she had something important to say. "I want this to be our real family, not just pretend." "It is our real family," Daniel said gently. "It has been since the first morning Clara came for breakfast." "I know, but I want it to be official." Lily climbed onto the couch between them, still clutching her drawing. "I want Clara to marry you, Daddy, and I want her to be my mom. Not my stepmom, my mom. Is that okay?" Clara felt her heart break and heal simultaneously. "Lily, I would be honored to be your mom, in every way that matters." "Good." Lily snuggled between them with satisfaction. "Because I already started telling people at school that you're my mom. Mrs. Peterson wants to meet you at the next parent-teacher conference." Daniel laughed, a sound of pure joy. "Lily Blake, what are we going to do with you? Love me forever and teach me how to drive when I'm 16 and help me with my homework and let me stay up late on weekends." Lily rattled off without hesitation. "All of that," Clara promised. "And more. And I know." Lily settled more comfortably between them, her head resting on Daniel's shoulder while her hand found Clara's. "I've been praying for a new mom since I was 6 years old. I knew God would send me the right one eventually. I just had to be patient." "You think God sent me?" Clara asked softly. "I think God sent you to that restaurant on the worst night of your life so Daddy could find you on the worst night you'd ever had." Lily's voice carried the simple faith of childhood. "And I think Mommy Rachel helped because she always said she wanted Daddy to be happy, and me to have a mom who would love me as much as she did." Clara looked over Lily's head at Daniel, who was watching his daughter with an expression of wonder and love. "I think you might be right about that," Clara whispered. "I usually am," Lily said drowsily, her eyes starting to drift closed. "I'm going to take a nap now, because all this family planning is exhausting." Within minutes, Lily was asleep between them, her drawing still clutched in her small hands. Clara and Daniel sat in comfortable silence, both lost in their own thoughts about the future they were building together. "Are you scared?" Daniel asked quietly. "Terrified," Clara admitted, "but also more excited than I've ever been about anything." "Good. I'd be worried if you weren't scared. This is big marriage, instant motherhood, joining a family that comes with its own complicated history." "It doesn't feel complicated," Clara said softly. "It feels right. Like this is where I was always supposed to end up. Even though 6 months ago you'd never heard of us, especially because of that." Clara shifted carefully so she could see his face without disturbing Lily. "Daniel, I spent so many years feeling like I was just surviving, just getting through each day without any real purpose or hope. Meeting you and Lily didn't just change my circumstances, it changed who I am. It gave me a reason to become the person I always wanted to be. You were already that person, Clara. You just needed someone to see it." "Maybe. But loving you and Lily has made me braver, stronger, more willing to take risks and dream big dreams." Clara smiled, brushing a strand of hair off Lily's forehead. "A year ago, I couldn't have imagined having this conversation. I couldn't have imagined believing I deserved this kind of happiness. And now I think maybe I don't just deserve it. I think I've earned it. We've all earned it. Clara's voice grew stronger, more certain. We've all been through loss and pain and uncertainty. We've all had to learn how to keep going when everything seemed hopeless. And now we get to have this beautiful, complicated, perfect family we've chosen to build together. Daniel reached over and took her free hand, careful not to wake Lily. I love you, Clara Martinez. I love your courage and your kindness and your terrible jokes and the way you make pancakes like they're the most important thing in the world. I love you too, Daniel Blake. I love your patience and your wisdom and the way you sing to Lily when you think she's asleep and how you make me feel like I'm home wherever you are. They sat like that. As the afternoon sun slanted through the windows, three people who had found each other against all odds and chosen to become a family. Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm of life and change, but inside Daniel's living room, time seemed to slow down and stretch into something precious and eternal. Clara thought about the scholarship that had brought her here, about the education she was pursuing that would let her spend her life caring for others. She thought about the little girl sleeping peacefully between them, who had welcomed her with open arms and an open heart. Most of all, she thought about the man who had seen her at her lowest moment and chosen to offer not just charity, but love. In a few hours, she would go back to her own apartment and her textbooks and the normal routine of her new life as a full-time student. But she would carry this moment with her, this perfect Sunday afternoon, when everything felt possible and the future stretched ahead like an unwritten story full of promise. Lily stirred in her sleep, murmuring something that sounded like, "Mama," and Clara felt her heart swell with a love so fierce and protective it took her breath away. This was her family now. These were her people. And for the first time in her life, Clara knew with absolute certainty that she was exactly where she belonged. The months that followed that perfect Sunday afternoon unfolded like pages in a book. Clara had always dreamed of reading, but never believed she would hold in her hands. Her days settled into a rhythm that felt both new and ancient: classes in the morning, study sessions in the library during lunch, and evenings that more often than not found her at Daniel's brownstone, helping Lily with homework, or simply being part of the quiet domestic symphony that had become her second home. It was on a crisp October evening, exactly 7 months after that first dinner at Romano's, that everything changed again. Clara was curled up on Daniel's couch, textbooks spread around her like fallen leaves, when her phone rang with a number she didn't recognize. Clara Martinez. The voice on the other end was professional, efficient. Yes, this is Clara. This is Dr. Jennifer Walsh from Johns Hopkins University. I'm calling about your application to our accelerated nursing program. Clara's heart stopped. She had applied to Johns Hopkins on a whim, encouraged by Sarah Chen, who had connections in their admissions department. It was a prestigious program that would allow her to complete her nursing degree in 18 months instead of 3 years, but the acceptance rate was less than 5%. She had convinced herself it was a long shot, a dream too big to seriously consider. I'm pleased to inform you that you've been accepted into our program with a full scholarship. We were particularly impressed with your clinical experience and your personal statement about serving underserved populations. The words seemed to echo in Clara's ears as if spoken from underwater. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? You've been accepted, Miss Martinez. The program begins in January. I know it's short notice, but we had a candidate withdraw, and your application was unanimously approved by the committee as the replacement. Clara looked across the room at Daniel, who was helping Lily with a science project at the kitchen table. They were both bent over what appeared to be a volcano made of papier-mâché, their dark heads close together, as Daniel explained something about chemical reactions. The sight of them together, so natural and perfect, made her chest tight with love and sudden overwhelming fear. "Miss Martinez, are you still there?" "Yes, I'm here. This is incredible news. When would I need to give you an answer?" "We'd need confirmation by Friday. I know that's only 3 days, but as I said, this is an unusual circumstance." Clara thanked Dr. Walsh and hung up with shaking hands. Daniel must have sensed something in her silence because he looked up from the volcano, his expression immediately shifting to concern. "What's wrong?" he asked, rising from his chair. "Nothing's wrong. Something's right. Maybe too right." Clara set her phone down carefully, as if it might explode. "I just got accepted to Johns Hopkins, the accelerated nursing program, full scholarship." Daniel's face went through a series of emotions: surprise, pride, joy, and then something that looked like realization settling into dread. "Johns Hopkins, in Baltimore." "In Baltimore," Clara confirmed quietly. Lily looked up from her volcano, sensing the shift in mood, even if she didn't understand the implications. "What's Johns Hopkins?" "It's a very famous school," Daniel said, his voice carefully neutral. "Clara's been accepted to study nursing there." "That's good, right?" Lily's eyes moved between them, picking up on the tension that had suddenly filled the room. "Why don't you both look happy?" Clara moved to the kitchen table and sat down next to Lily, taking her small hands in her own. "It is good, sweetheart. It's a wonderful opportunity. But Johns Hopkins is in Baltimore, which is 4 hours away from here." Lily's face went very still, the way children's faces do when they're trying to process information that doesn't make sense to them. 4 hours away? Yes. But you live here now. You have dinner with us and help me with my homework, and you're going to marry Daddy. Lily's voice was small, confused. "I don't live here exactly," Clara said gently. "I have my own apartment, remember? And Daddy and I aren't married yet." "But you're going to be. You said so." Lily's eyes filled with tears she was trying very hard not to shed. "You said you wanted to be my mom." Clara felt her heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. "I do want to be your mom, Lily. More than anything in the world." "Then why would you leave us?" It was Daniel who answered, his voice rough with emotion he was trying to keep under control. "Because this is Clara's dream, sweetheart. She's worked very hard to become a nurse, and this school would help her become the best nurse she can be." "But dreams aren't supposed to take you away from your family," Lily said, her lower lip trembling. "Sometimes they do," Daniel said quietly. "Sometimes the people we love have to go away for a while to become who they're meant to be." Clara looked at him sharply, hearing something in his tone that made her stomach clench with anxiety. "Daniel, we need to talk about this." "Yes, we do." Daniel's expression was carefully controlled, but Clara could see the storm brewing behind his eyes. "Lily, why don't you go work on your reading for a while? Clara and I need to have a grown-up conversation." Lily looked between them with the acute perception children develop when their world starts to feel unstable. "You're going to fight, aren't you?" "We're going to talk," Clara said softly. "Sometimes grown-ups need to talk about difficult things." "But you're not going to stop loving each other." "Never," Clara said firmly, though her voice caught slightly. "No matter what happens, we will never stop loving each other." Lily nodded solemnly and gathered her school supplies, but she paused at the bottom of the stairs. "Clara, if you go to Baltimore, will you come back?" "I don't know, sweetheart. I haven't decided anything yet." "But you want to go?" It wasn't a question. Clara felt tears prick her eyes. "Part of me does, yes. It's a very good school." Lily nodded again, looking far older than her 8 years. Okay, I'm going to read now. After she disappeared upstairs, Clara and Daniel sat in silence for a long moment, the weight of the conversation they needed to have pressing down on them like a physical force. You want to go, Daniel said finally. I don't know what I want. Clara ran her hands through her hair, frustration and confusion warring in her chest. This morning I knew exactly what my life looked like. I was going to finish school here, marry you, be Lily's mom, maybe have babies with you. It was all planned out. And now I have this opportunity that I never expected, and I don't know what it means or what I should do with it. Daniel stood up and walked to the window, his hands shoved deep in his pockets. Johns Hopkins is one of the best nursing programs in the country. I know. Graduating from there would open doors you can't even imagine. You could work anywhere, do anything. Research administration, specialized care. I know that too. So what's the problem? Clara stared at his back, seeing the tension in his shoulders, the careful way he was holding himself. The problem is that I love you and Lily more than I've ever loved anything in my life, and I can't imagine leaving you. But I also can't shake the feeling that this opportunity exists for a reason. Daniel turned around, his face carefully composed. What kind of reason? I don't know. Maybe because I'm supposed to become something more than I am now. Maybe because there are people I'm meant to help, that I can only help if I have the best education possible. Clara's voice grew stronger as she spoke, as if giving voice to her thoughts was helping her understand them. Or maybe because I need to prove to myself that I can do this on my own, that I'm not just the girl you rescued from a restaurant. Is that what you think you are? Sometimes. Clara's honesty was painful but necessary. Sometimes I wonder if I'm living in a fairy tale that's too good to be true. If maybe I need to find out who I am when I'm not being taken care of by someone else. Daniel's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. And you think you can only find that out by leaving? I think I might need to find out if I'm brave enough to leave. If I'm strong enough to choose my dreams even when they conflict with what feels safe and comfortable. What about Lily? The question hit Clara like a physical blow. What about her? She's already lost one mother. She's finally started to believe that you're here to stay, that she can count on you, that she has a family again. Daniel's voice was quiet but edged with something that might have been anger. What happens to her if you leave? I wouldn't be leaving forever. It's 18 months. 18 months is a lifetime to an 8-year-old. Clara felt tears burning her eyes. Do you think I don't know that? Do you think this is easy for me? I think you're looking for reasons to run away because happiness scares you more than struggle does. The words hung in the air between them like a slap. Clara stared at Daniel, seeing a hardness in his expression she'd never seen before. That's not fair, she whispered. Isn't it 6 months ago you had nothing? Now you have everything, a family who loves you, a future that's secure, a place where you belong. And the first time something comes along that gives you an excuse to leave it all behind, you're already halfway out the door. It's not an excuse, it's Johns Hopkins. It's a reason to run away before someone else can leave you first. Clara stood up abruptly, anger and hurt warring in her chest. How dare you? You have no idea what it's like to lose everything and have to rebuild from nothing. You don't get to judge me for wanting to make sure I can take care of myself. You're right. I don't know what that's like. Daniel's voice was cold, professional, the voice he probably used in boardrooms when deals went wrong. What I do know is what it's like to watch someone you love choose something else over your family. This isn't about choosing something else over you. This is about choosing myself for once in my life. And what about choosing us? What about choosing Lily, who's been asking me every day when you're going to move in officially. What about choosing the life we've been building together? Clara felt something break inside her chest. Why does it have to be a choice? Why can't you be happy for me? Why can't you see this as an opportunity for all of us? Because I can see the way you're looking at this like it's an escape hatch, like you've been waiting for a reason to leave. Daniel's eyes were bright with unshed tears, but his voice remained steady. Because I know that if you go, you won't come back. Not really. You'll come back changed, different, ready for a bigger life than what we can offer you here. That's not true. Isn't it, Clara? You're 24 years old. You're brilliant and beautiful and capable of anything. Do you really think you're going to spend 18 months at one of the best universities in the country and then come back to our quiet little life? Come back to a man with a ready-made family and all the complications that come with it. Clara stared at him as seeing the fear behind his anger, the vulnerability he was trying so hard to hide. Is that what you really think of me? I think you're human. I think you deserve every opportunity the world has to offer. And I think that maybe what's best for you isn't what's best for us. The words hung between them like a death sentence. Clara felt the future she had imagined, the marriage, the family, the growing old together crumbling around her like a house of cards. So what are you saying? She whispered. I'm saying maybe you should go to Baltimore. Daniel, I'm saying maybe Lily and I have been selfish trying to keep you here when you could be out there changing the world. Daniel's voice cracked slightly, revealing the pain he was trying so hard to contain. I'm saying maybe the kindest thing I can do is let you go. Clara felt like she couldn't breathe. And us, Xian happens to us. I don't know. Daniel looked away, unable to meet her eyes. Maybe we were just a beautiful interlude. Maybe that's enough. It's not enough for me. Then don't go. Clara stared at him, seeing the challenge in his eyes, the test he was presenting her with. Choose us or choose yourself. Choose love or choose dreams. Choose safety or choose the unknown. Why are you making this so hard? She asked, her voice breaking. Because if it's not hard, it doesn't mean anything. Daniel finally looked at her again, and she saw all the love and fear and desperation he'd been trying to hide. Because if you can walk away from us easily, then we were never what I thought we were. Upstairs, they could hear Lily moving around her room, the sound of a child trying to distract herself from the tension she could feel radiating through the house. Clara thought about the drawing Lily had made the family of 4 holding hands in front of a house with a garden. She thought about the mornings they'd spent making breakfast together, the evenings when she'd helped with homework, the way Lily had started calling her mom when she thought no one was listening. I need time to think, Clara said finally. You have until Friday. Daniel, please don't do this. Don't make this an ultimatum. I'm not making it anything. Johns Hopkins is making it an ultimatum. The world is making it an ultimatum. Daniel's voice was tired now, drained of anger, and left with only sadness. I'm just trying to figure out how to survive whatever you decide. Clara walked to the coat closet and pulled out her jacket, her movements mechanical and disconnected. I should go. Clara? Daniel's voice stopped her at the door. For what it's worth, I think you should go to Baltimore. Not because I want you to leave, but because you'll never forgive yourself if you don't. And eventually, you'll never forgive us for being the reason you stayed. She turned to look at him one last time, this man who had saved her life and given her everything she'd ever dreamed of wanting. What if you're wrong? What if I go and it's the biggest mistake of my life? Then you'll learn from it and move on. That's what strong people do. What if I can't move on? What if I spend the rest of my life regretting leaving you and Lily? Daniel's smile was sad and beautiful and completely heartbroken. Then you'll know for sure that this was real, that what we had mattered. Clara left without saying goodbye to Lily, unable to face the questions and tears she knew would come. She walked home through the October evening, her mind spinning with everything Daniel had said and everything he hadn't said. The scholarship letter felt like it was burning a hole in her purse, this gift that had turned into a curse, this opportunity that felt like an ending. Her apartment felt smaller than ever when she let herself in, cramped and lonely, after months of spending most of her time in Daniel's warm, lived-in home. She sat on her second-hand couch and stared at the wall, trying to imagine her life in Baltimore, trying to imagine her life without Daniel and Lily, trying to imagine any future that didn't include the family she'd fallen in love with. Her phone rang around 10 o'clock. Lily's name appeared on the screen, and Clara's heart clenched as she answered. "Clara?" Lily's voice was small and scared. "Are you okay? Daddy said you had to go home, but you seemed sad." "I'm okay, sweetheart. I just needed some time to think." "About Baltimore?" "Yes." "Do you want to go there?" Clara closed her eyes, trying to find an answer that was both honest and age-appropriate. "Part of me does, yes. It's a very good school, and I could learn a lot there." "But you'd have to leave us." "I would. For a while." Lily was quiet for a long moment. "Daddy's been crying. He thinks I don't know, but I can tell. His eyes get red, and he makes that face he makes when he's trying not to be sad in front of me." Clara felt her heart break a little more. "I'm sorry, Lily. I never wanted to make your daddy sad." "I know. But I think maybe he's sad because he loves you so much that the thought of you leaving hurts too much to think about." "Maybe you're right." "Clara, can I tell you something that might sound grown up?" "Of course." "I think you should go to Baltimore if you want to. Not because I want you to leave, but because my mom used to say that love means wanting the best for someone, even if it's hard for you." Clara felt tears start to fall. "Your mom was very wise." "I know. And I think she would say that if Baltimore is what's best for you, then Daddy and I should want you to go, even if we'll miss you terribly." "What do you think, Lily? What do you want me to do?" "I want you to stay with us forever and ever and be my mom and marry Daddy and have babies and never leave us ever." Lily's voice was matter-of-fact, as if she was reading from a list. "But I also want you to be happy and to become the best nurse in the whole world and to help lots of people who need you. And if those two things can't happen at the same time, then I guess you have to pick the one that's most important." Lily paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was very small. "But Clara, if you go to Baltimore, will you promise to call me every day? And will you promise to come visit? And will you promise that you'll still love me even if you're far away?" "I promise all of those things," Clara whispered. "I will always, always love you, Lily, no matter where I am or what I'm doing." "Okay, then I think I can be brave about you leaving, if you decide to go." After they hung up, Clara sat in her dark apartment and cried for everything she was about to lose and everything she might gain. She thought about Daniel's words, about running away, and choosing herself, and the possibility that she was looking for an escape from happiness she didn't believe she deserved. She thought about Lily's wisdom about love meaning wanting what was best for someone even when it hurt. She thought about the little girl who had already lost one mother and was now facing the possibility of losing another, but who was trying to be brave enough to let Clara go if that's what would make her happy. Most of all, she thought about who she wanted to be, the woman who stayed because it was safe and comfortable, or the woman who was brave enough to pursue her dreams even when the cost was almost unbearable. 3 days later, Clara found herself standing outside Daniel's office building, the acceptance letter from Johns Hopkins folded in her hand. She had made her decision, but she needed to tell him in person, needed to see his face when she said the words that would change everything. The elevator ride to the 30th floor felt like it lasted forever. Daniel's assistant, a kind woman named Margaret, looked surprised to see her. "Clara? How nice to see you. Daniel didn't mention you were coming by. He doesn't know I'm here. Is he available? He's in a meeting, but I'm sure he'd want to see you. Let me just—" "It's okay." Daniel's voice came from behind them. Clara turned to see him standing in the doorway of a conference room, looking tired and older than she remembered. "The meeting can wait." He led her into his office and closed the door, then stood with his back against it, as if he was afraid she might try to escape before she could tell him whatever she'd come to say. "You look like you've made a decision," he said quietly. "I have." Clara took a deep breath, gathering her courage. "I'm going to Baltimore." Daniel's face went very still, but he nodded as if he'd been expecting this. "When do you leave?" "January 3rd. Classes start on the 5th. That's less than 3 months away." "I know." Clara stepped toward him, her heart breaking at the careful distance he was maintaining. "Daniel, I need you to understand something. I'm not leaving because I want to get away from you and Lily. I'm leaving because I love you both so much that I need to become the best version of myself for you." "Clara, let me finish, please." Clara's voice was steady now, certain. "You were right about some things. I am scared of happiness. I am afraid that if I don't prove I can make it on my own, I'll always wonder if I'm just the girl you rescued. But you were wrong about why I'm going." "Then tell me why." "I'm going because I want to come back to you as someone who chose you, not someone who had no other options. I'm going because I want to be able to give Lily everything she deserves, in a mother confidence, independence, the knowledge that dreams are worth pursuing, even when they're difficult." Clara's voice grew stronger with each word. "I'm going because I love you enough to risk losing you to become worthy of you." Daniel stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "And what if you don't come back? What if 18 months in Baltimore shows you a life you like better than this one? Then you'll know I was never the right person for you and Lily anyway, and you'll find someone who is." Clara's voice caught slightly. "But Daniel, I need you to know that I can't imagine a life better than the one we've been building together. I can't imagine loving anyone the way I love you. I'm not going to Baltimore to find something better. I'm going to make myself better for what I already have." "Clara," Daniel's voice was rough with emotion, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." "Okay. Will you wait for me? Will you and Lily be here when I come back?" Daniel closed his eyes, and when he opened them, they were bright with unshed tears. "Do you really not know the answer to that?" "I'm afraid to assume." "Clara, I have loved you since the moment you dropped that $5 bill at my feet. I will love you when you're in Baltimore, and I will love you when you come back with your degree and your big dreams and your unshakable confidence. I will love you if you decide to stay in Baltimore, and I will love you if you come home and marry me and give Lily the brothers and sisters she's been asking for. And Lily will love you no matter what. She's already planning care packages and demanding that I set up video calls every night so she can help with your homework." Daniel's smile was watery but genuine. "She's also making me promise to take good care of myself while you're gone so I don't get sad and skinny like her friend's dad did when his wife went away for work." Clara felt laughter and tears mixing together in her chest. "She said that she's very concerned about my emotional well-being. She's already planning weekly father-daughter cooking lessons, so I don't forget how to make proper meals without Clara's supervision. I love her so much. I know, and she knows too. Daniel finally moved away from the door, crossing to stand in front of Clara. We're going to miss you terribly, every single day, but we're also going to be proud of you every single day. I'm going to miss you too, more than I can even imagine right now. Daniel reached out and cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away tears she didn't realize were falling. Come back to us, Clara. When you're ready, when you've proven whatever you need to prove to yourself, come back to us. I will. I promise. And call us every day. Lily's already informed me that she expects detailed reports about your classes and your dormitory, and whether the cafeteria food is as terrible as it looks in movies. Clara laughed through her tears. I'll call every day, maybe twice a day. I love you, Daniel said softly. I love your courage and your determination, and your absolute refusal to take the easy path when you think there's a better one waiting for you. I love you too, more than I have words for. Daniel kissed her, then soft and sweet, and full of promises they were both hoping they could keep. When they broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. 18 months, he said quietly. 18 months, Clara confirmed. And then I'm coming home. We'll be here. Promise, promise. Clara left Daniel's office with a heart that was both broken and full of hope. In 3 months, she would leave everything she loved to pursue a dream that had become more important than her own happiness. But she would leave knowing that she was loved, that she had a home to come back to, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is risk losing everything to become who you're meant to be. The thought of leaving Daniel and Lily was still almost unbearable, but it no longer felt like an ending. It felt like a beginning, the start of a journey that would lead her back to them eventually, as the woman she wanted to be when she said yes to forever. The months between Clara's decision and her departure passed like pages torn from a calendar, in a strong wind too fast to hold on to, but each one precious in its brevity. December arrived with the first real snow of the season, blanketing the city in pristine white that made everything look new and full of possibility. Clara found herself memorizing moments with an intensity that bordered on desperation, the way Daniel's hair curled slightly when it was damp from the shower, the sound of Lily's laughter echoing through the brownstone on Saturday mornings, the particular quality of light that filtered through the kitchen windows during their evening dinners. They had decided not to waste their remaining time together on sadness or regret, but there was an undercurrent of bittersweetness to everything they did. Each first became a last, the last time they would decorate a Christmas tree together, before Clara left, the last time she would help Lily with a school project, the last New Year's Eve they would spend as an almost family of 3. I have something for you, Daniel said, on the night before Clara was scheduled to leave for Baltimore. They were sitting in his living room after Lily had gone to bed, surrounded by the boxes and suitcases that held Clara's entire life condensed into portable pieces. Daniel, we agreed no gifts. This is hard enough without... It's not a gift exactly. It's more like a promise. Daniel reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box that made Clara's heart stop completely. Daniel, her voice was barely a whisper. I'm not asking you to marry me tonight, he said quickly, seeing the panic in her eyes. I'm asking you to take this with you to Baltimore as a reminder that you have something worth coming home to. Clara stared at the box, afraid to touch it, afraid to open it, afraid of what it might mean. I don't understand. Clara, 18 months is a long time. You're going to meet new people, have new experiences, Maybe even meet someone who makes you question everything you think you know about your future. Daniel's voice was steady, but she could see the vulnerability in his eyes. I needed to know that when those moments come, you'll have something concrete to remind you that what we have is real. You want me to wear an engagement ring while I'm not engaged. I want you to carry the knowledge that when you're ready, when you come back from Baltimore as the incredible nurse I know you're going to become, this ring will be waiting for you, along with a proposal and a wedding, and a lifetime of Saturday morning pancakes and terrible jokes and arguments about the proper way to load the dishwasher. Clara opened the box with shaking fingers, revealing a ring that was nothing like what she might have expected. It wasn't a traditional diamond solitaire, but a sapphire surrounded by small diamonds set in a vintage gold band that looked like it had its own story to tell. It was Rachel's grandmother's ring, Daniel said softly. Rachel never got to wear it. Her grandmother died before we met. But Rachel always said she wanted it to go to someone who understood that love isn't just about the good times, someone who was brave enough to fight for what mattered. Clara felt tears start to fall. Daniel, I can't take Rachel's ring. You're not taking Rachel's ring. You're taking the ring that's been waiting for you. Daniel reached over and gently lifted the ring from its velvet bed. Lily and I talked about it. She said her mom would want her future stepmother to have something that connected her to the family history, something that showed she belonged. Lily knows about this. Lily helped me pick it out. Well, technically, she helped me decide between this ring and her great-grandmother's pearls. She said rings were better because you can see them every day and remember the people who love you. Clara held out her right hand, watching through tears as Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, as if it had been made for her. It's not an engagement ring yet, Daniel said quietly. Right now, it's a promise ring. A promise that I'll be here when you get back. A promise that what we're building together is worth waiting for. A promise that you're already part of this family, no matter how many miles separate us. Clara threw her arms around Daniel's neck, holding him tight against her, as if she could somehow absorb enough of his warmth and strength to carry her through the next 18 months. I love you, she whispered against his ear. I love you so much, it terrifies me. Good. Daniel murmured, his arms tightening around her. Love should be a little terrifying. That's how you know it's real. They held each other in the quiet of the living room, surrounded by the ghosts of all the evenings they'd spent there, and the promise of all the evenings they would spend there again. Outside, snow continued to fall, covering the city in silence and possibility. The next morning dawned gray and cold, the kind of January day that made leaving feel both inevitable and impossible. Clara's train to Baltimore left at noon, which meant she had exactly 4 hours to say goodbye to the life she'd built and the people who had become her whole world. Lily was unusually quiet during breakfast, pushing her pancakes around her plate without eating them. She had insisted on making Clara's favorite breakfast one last time, but now seemed unable to enjoy the ritual they'd shared so many times before. Are you okay, sweetheart? Clara asked, reaching across the table to touch Lily's hand. I'm trying to be brave like you, Lily said in a small voice. But I don't feel very brave. I feel scared and sad and angry that you have to go away. It's okay to feel all of those things. I feel them too. You do. I feel terrified about leaving you and your daddy. I feel sad that I'm going to miss so many things, your violin recital next month, your birthday party, all the regular days, when nothing special happens but we're together. Clara's voice caught slightly. And I feel angry that I have to choose between loving you and pursuing my dreams. But you also feel excited, right? About school and learning new things. I do. And I think that's okay too. I think we can feel scared and excited at the same time. Lily nodded thoughtfully. Daddy says that's what growing up is, feeling lots of different things all at once and learning how to be okay with it. Your daddy is very smart. I know. Lily finally took a bite of her pancakes, then looked up at Clara with serious blue eyes. Clara, when you come back, will you still want to be my mom? Even if you've learned lots of important things and become really smart and fancy. Clara felt her heart break and heal simultaneously. Lily, becoming smart and fancy doesn't change who you love. If anything, it makes you love them more because you understand better how precious they are. Promise. I promise. In fact, I think when I come back, I'll be an even better mom to you because I'll know more about taking care of people and I'll be more confident about myself. And you'll still want to marry Daddy. Clara glanced across the kitchen at Daniel, who was pretending to read the newspaper, but obviously listening to every word. I'll still want to marry your daddy. Good. Because I've been planning the wedding in my head, and I have some very good ideas about flowers and cake. After breakfast, they drove to the train station in Daniel's car, the trunk loaded with Clara's suitcases, and the careful silence that comes when there's too much to say and not enough time to say it. Lily sat in the back seat, clutching a manila envelope that she'd been mysterious about all morning. What's in the envelope, sweetheart? Clara asked as they pulled into the station parking lot. It's for you to open on the train. After we say goodbye. It's to help you remember us when you get sad. The train station was bustling with travelers, people saying hello and goodbye, and rushing toward their own futures. Clara felt disconnected from all of it, as if she was watching her life happen to someone else. Daniel carried her bags while Lily held tightly to Clara's hand, chattering nervously about everything and nothing. When they reached the platform, Clara knelt down to Lily's level, taking the little girl's face in her hands. I need you to take care of your daddy while I'm gone. Okay, make sure he eats vegetables and doesn't work too late and remembers to smile. I will. And I need you to take care of yourself. Eat your vegetables and don't study too late and remember to smile. Lily's eyes were bright with unshed tears. And call us every day like you promised. Every single day. And send pictures of your school and your dorm room and anything interesting you see. Lots of pictures. And remember that we love you, even when you're far away. I'll remember. Clara pulled Lily into a fierce hug, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo and trying to memorize the feel of her small arms around her neck. I love you, Lily Blake. You are the most wonderful little girl in the entire world, and I am so proud to be your family. I love you too, Mom. Lily whispered the word so quietly, Clara almost missed it, but the sound hit her like a physical blow. Come home to us. I will. I promise. Daniel was next, and Clara found herself unable to speak as she looked up at him. He was wearing the expression she'd come to know well, the one he wore when he was trying to be strong for Lily's sake but feeling anything but strong inside. This isn't goodbye, he said firmly, pulling her into his arms. This is see you later. See you later, Clara repeated, her voice muffled against his chest. I love you, Clara Martinez. I love your courage and your determination, and your absolute refusal to settle for anything less than your dreams. Daniel's voice was rough with emotion. Go to Baltimore and become the incredible nurse you're meant to be. Learn everything they can teach you, help people, change lives. And when you're ready, come home and help us finish building this family. I love you too, Clara whispered. Take care of our daughter. Our daughter, Daniel repeated as if testing how the words sounded. I like that. The train's whistle blew, signaling that it was time to board. Clara kissed Daniel one last time, soft and sweet and full of promises, then picked up her carry-on bag and walked toward the train car, forcing herself not to look back until she was safely on board. From her window seat, she could see Daniel and Lily standing on the platform, holding hands and waving. Lily had climbed onto a bench, so Clara could see her better, and she was holding up a sign that said, "We love you," in her careful third-grade handwriting. Clara pressed her palm against the window and watched them until the train pulled away and they disappeared from view. Only then did she open Lily's envelope. Inside was a collection of drawings, new family pictures that showed 4 people holding hands. But in these pictures, one of the figures was clearly in a different place, wearing what looked like a graduation cap. At the bottom of each drawing, Lily had written messages in her neat script. Clara at school, learning to be the best nurse ever. Our family, even when we're not all together. Clara coming home after she's learned everything. Our wedding day, I get to be the flower girl. The last drawing showed all 4 of them standing in front of the brownstone, but this time there were 5 figures. Clara had a baby in her arms, and everyone was smiling. Our family when it's complete, Lily had written at the bottom. Clara held the drawings against her chest and cried for everything she was leaving behind and everything she was moving toward. The ring on her finger caught the light streaming through the train window, a constant reminder of the promises that waited for her at the end of this journey. The months in Baltimore passed in a blur of intensive study, clinical rotations, and the particular exhaustion that comes from pursuing something you want desperately. Clara threw herself into her studies with the single-minded focus of someone who had too much to prove and too much to lose. She made friends with her classmates, but always held part of herself back, aware that this was temporary, that her real life was waiting for her 4 hours north. She called Daniel and Lily every night without fail, sometimes talking for hours about everything and nothing. She sent pictures of her dormitory, her classroom, the hospital where she did her clinical work. She learned about pediatric care and emergency medicine, and the delicate art of helping people heal not just their bodies, but their spirits. Daniel sent her flowers every Friday, not roses or anything too romantic, but daisies and sunflowers and other cheerful blooms that reminded her of the garden behind his brownstone. Lily sent her a constant stream of artwork and school assignments, and detailed reports about her father's emotional well-being. Daddy smiled 4 times today, and only sighed twice, which I think is pretty good. There were difficult nights when Clara lay in her narrow dormitory bed and wondered if she was making the biggest mistake of her life. There were times when she was so lonely, she considered dropping out and going home early. There were moments when she met someone who made her remember that she was young and unattached and free to make different choices. But every time doubt crept in, she would look at the ring on her finger and remember Daniel's words about promises and coming home. She would read Lily's latest letter or drawing and remember why she was doing this, not to escape from love, but to make herself worthy of it. Spring arrived in Baltimore with cherry blossoms and longer days, and the growing sense that Clara was becoming the person she'd always been meant to be. Her grades were exceptional, her clinical reviews glowing, and her professors had begun talking about opportunities for specialized training that could lead to positions at prestigious hospitals. It was during one of these conversations, a meeting with the head of pediatric nursing, about a potential fellowship, that Clara realized something had shifted inside her. 6 months ago, the opportunity being offered would have seemed like a dream come true. Now it felt like a detour from her real destination. "It's a 2-year commitment, Doctor," Harrison was saying, "but it would position you for a department head role by the time you're 30. You'd be working with some of the most challenging cases in pediatric oncology." "It sounds incredible," Clara said politely, "but I need to think about it." "Of course, take your time. The position doesn't start until fall anyway." Clara left the meeting and walked across campus to her favorite bench by the library, the ring on her finger catching the afternoon sunlight. She pulled out her phone and called Daniel, needing to hear his voice as she processed what had just happened. "How did the meeting go?" he asked after they'd exchanged their usual greetings. "They offered me a fellowship, pediatric oncology. 2 years with a guaranteed position afterward." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "That's incredible, Clara. Congratulations. You don't sound like you think it's incredible." "I think it's an amazing opportunity. I also think I know what you're going to tell them." Clara smiled, unsurprised that Daniel could read her so well even from 4 hours away. "What am I going to tell them?" "You're going to tell them thank you, but no. You're going to tell them that you have a family waiting for you and a life you want to get back to building." "Is that what I'm going to tell them?" "I hope so, but Clara, if this is something you want, if this fellowship is part of your dreams, then you should take it. Lily and I will understand." "Will you?" "We'll try to, we'll have to." Clara closed her eyes, feeling the weight of the decision settling on her shoulders. "Daniel, can I ask you something? Anything? Do you still want to marry me after all these months apart, after everything that's happened? Do you still want the same future we talked about?" "Clara." Daniel's voice was soft, with something that might have been wonder. "I want to marry you more now than I did when you left. These months have shown me that what we have isn't dependent on proximity or convenience. It's real. It's lasting. It's worth waiting for. Even if I'm different now, even if I'm more confident and independent, and maybe a little harder around the edges. Especially because of that. Clara, I fell in love with your strength and your determination. Watching you pursue your dreams, even when it meant leaving us, has only made me love you more. And Lily. Lily asks me every day when you're coming home. She's planned 17 different welcome home parties and has informed me that we're getting married in June because that's when the garden will be at its most beautiful." Clara laughed, feeling something tight in her chest finally release. "June, huh? June. Unless you have other plans." "I might have other plans." "Oh." Daniel's voice was carefully neutral. "I might have plans to come home early. Like next week early." The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long that Clara began to worry they'd lost the connection. "Daniel, are you serious?" "I'm serious. I talked to my advisor yesterday and I can finish my degree requirements with an independent study project this summer. I could be home by the end of May and graduate in August." "Clara, you can't make decisions like this for us. If you want to finish in Baltimore..." "I don't want to finish in Baltimore. I want to finish at home with my family, preparing for the life I actually want, instead of the life I think I should want." Clara stood up from the bench, suddenly filled with energy and certainty. "Daniel, I've spent 8 months learning how to be an incredible nurse. But I've also spent 8 months learning that being incredible at something doesn't mean anything if you don't have people to share it with." "What about the fellowship?" "There will be other fellowships. There are amazing pediatric programs in the city, and I can pursue specialized training while living the life I want to live, with the people I want to live it with." "Clara, are you sure, really sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life. These months have taught me that I don't need to choose between my dreams and my family. I can have both. I can be both the nurse I want to be and the wife and mother I want to be." "Wife and mother," Daniel repeated softly. "If the offer still stands." "The offer will always stand." Clara felt tears of joy start to fall. "Then I'm coming home, Daniel. I'm coming home to marry you and to be Lily's mom and to start the rest of our lives together." "When?" "My last exam is next Friday. I could be on a train Saturday morning. We'll be there to pick you up. You don't even know what time. We'll be there all day if we have to. Clara, we've been waiting 18 months. We can wait all day. The week that followed was a whirlwind of final exams, packing, and goodbye celebrations with classmates who had become dear friends. Clara felt no sadness about leaving Baltimore, only anticipation for what waited for her at home. She had proven to herself that she could succeed on her own, that she was capable and strong, and worthy of the love Daniel and Lily offered her. Now she was ready to accept that sunk completely, without reservation or fear. Saturday morning arrived bright and clear, the kind of May day that made everything seem possible. Clara's train pulled into the station exactly on time, and as she stepped onto the platform with her bags, she saw them immediately, Daniel in jeans and a blue shirt that matched his eyes, Lily, in a yellow sundress that made her look like a flower herself. "Mom!" Lily broke away from her father and ran toward Clara, her face bright with pure joy. "You're home! You're really home?" Clara dropped her bags and caught Lily in her arms, spinning her around as they both laughed and cried at the same time. "I'm home, sweetheart. I'm finally home." Daniel reached them a moment later, pulling both Clara and Lily into his arms and holding them tight. "Welcome home," he whispered against Clara's ear. "It's good to be home," Clara whispered back. They stood like that for a long moment, a family of three finally together again, surrounded by the bustle of the train station, but existing in their own perfect bubble of reunion and love. "Clara," Lily said when they finally pulled apart, "I have something very important to ask you." "What is it, sweetheart?" "Daddy said I had to wait until you were home to ask, but I can't wait anymore." Lily looked back and forth between Clara and her father with barely contained excitement. "Will you marry us? Will you officially be my mom and Daddy's wife and part of our family forever and ever?" Clara looked at Daniel, who was watching her with an expression of love and hope and barely contained emotion. "I think that's your daddy's question to ask, don't you?" "Actually," Daniel said, reaching into his pocket, "I think it's our question to ask." He pulled out the same small velvet box he'd given Clara 18 months ago, but when he opened it, the ring inside was different still, the same sapphire and diamonds, but now accompanied by a matching wedding band that sparkled in the station's fluorescent lights. "Clara Martinez!" Daniel said, dropping to one knee right there on the train platform. "Will you marry me? Will you be my wife and Lily's mother and the missing piece that makes our family complete?" Clara looked down at this man who had saved her life in every way that mattered, then at the little girl who was bouncing on her toes with excitement, then at the ring that represented not just a promise of marriage, but a promise of home and belonging and love that would last a lifetime. "Yes," she said, her voice strong and clear and full of joy. "Yes, I'll marry you, both of you." Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger, her left hand this time, and stood to kiss her as Lily cheered and clapped, and several nearby strangers began to applaud. It was chaos and perfect, and exactly the kind of proposal Clara never could have imagined, but wouldn't change for anything. "When?" Lily demanded, as they finally made their way toward the parking garage. "When can we get married? Can we do it tomorrow? Can we do it in the garden? Can I wear a pink dress?" "Slow down, sweetheart," Daniel laughed. "We have to plan these things." "June," Clara said suddenly. "Let's get married in June in the garden with pink dresses and all the flowers and everyone we love." "June is only 3 weeks away," Daniel pointed out. "Then we better get planning," Clara said, feeling giddy with happiness and possibility. And they did plan, throwing themselves into wedding preparations with the enthusiasm of people who had waited long enough for their happy ending. Clara finished her degree requirements with an independent study project on pediatric care in underserved communities, while also helping Lily pick out flowers and tasting cake samples, and learning the intricate politics of seating charts. 3 weeks later, on a perfect June afternoon, Clara walked down the aisle, created by garden paths in the backyard of what was now officially her home. She wore a simple white dress that Lily had helped her choose, and carried a bouquet of daisies from the garden that Rachel had planted years before. Daniel waited for her at the altar they'd created beneath the old oak tree, wearing a navy suit and the expression of a man who couldn't quite believe his good fortune. Lily stood beside him in the pink dress she'd dreamed of, holding a basket of flower petals and beaming with the satisfaction of someone whose careful plans were finally coming to fruition. The ceremony was small, just Sarah Chen and a few close friends, Daniel's parents who had flown in from California, and a handful of colleagues who had become family over the months of planning. But it felt perfect, intimate, and meaningful, and exactly right for the family they had become. "Dearly beloved," the minister began, "we are gathered here today to celebrate the marriage of Daniel and Clara, and to witness the creation of a family built on love choice and the beautiful courage to keep believing in happy endings." Clara looked out at the small gathering of people who had supported them through everything. Then at Lily, who was practically vibrating with excitement, then finally at Daniel, who was watching her with an expression of wonder and love that made her heart feel like it might burst with happiness. "Daniel," the minister continued, "do you take Clara to be your wife to love and cherish and support as she continues to grow into the remarkable woman she's becoming?" "I do," Daniel said, his voice strong and certain. "I have from the moment I met her." "And Clara, do you take Daniel to be your husband, to love and support and build a life with in all the adventures that lie ahead?" "I do," Clara said, her eyes never leaving Daniel's face. "Always." "And now," the minister said with a smile, "I believe someone else has something to say." Lily stepped forward, importantly, pulling a folded piece of paper from her dress pocket. "I wrote my own vows," she announced to the gathered guests. "Clara, do you promise to be my mom forever and ever, even when I'm a teenager and probably really annoying?" "I promise," Clara said, kneeling down to Lily's level. "And do you promise to help me with my homework and teach me how to cook and tell me stories about when you were little?" "I promise all of that." "And do you promise to love Daddy and take care of him and make sure he doesn't get sad and lonely anymore?" Clara felt tears start to fall. "I promise to love your daddy with my whole heart for the rest of my life." "Good," Lily beamed at her. "Then I pronounce you my mom and Daddy's wife and the best family in the whole world." The minister laughed along with the rest of the guests. "By the power vested in me by the state, and by the wisdom of Miss Lily Blake, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Daniel, you may kiss your bride." Daniel pulled Clara to her feet and kissed her softly, sweetly, with the promise of a lifetime of kisses to come. When they broke apart, Lily threw her flower petals into the air with wild abandon, and the small gathering erupted in cheers and applause. As the afternoon wore on, Clara found herself standing at the edge of the garden, watching Daniel and Lily dance to music playing from a small speaker, both of them laughing, as Lily tried to lead, and Daniel pretended to let her. The sight filled her with such overwhelming love and gratitude that she had to take a moment to just breathe and marvel at how completely her life had changed. No regrets. Sarah Chen appeared beside her holding 2 glasses of champagne. "None," Clara said without hesitation, accepting the glass gratefully. "Not a single one. Even about Baltimore, about the opportunities you might have had." Clara watched Daniel sweep Lily up in his arms and spin her around while she giggled with delight. Sarah, I spent 18 months in Baltimore learning how to be an incredible nurse. But I think the most important thing I learned was that success isn't about the prestige of where you work or how impressive your job title is. It's about using your skills to make a difference in the lives of people you care about. And you can do that here. I can do that anywhere. But here I can do it while being part of the family I've always dreamed of having. Clara smiled, feeling the absolute certainty of someone who had finally found their place in the world. Besides, I've already been offered a position in the pediatric unit at Children's Hospital. I start next month. That's wonderful, Clara. You've built something really beautiful here. We've built something beautiful, Clara corrected, watching as Daniel and Lily motioned for her to join their dance. All of us together. She excused herself and walked across the garden to her husband and daughter, letting them pull her into their circle of laughter and music and pure joy. As the sun began to set behind the brownstone that was now officially her home, Clara thought about the journey that had brought her here from a desperate woman with $5 and no hope to a wife and mother with a career she loved and a future bright with possibility. The ring on her finger caught the golden light of the setting sun, and Clara smiled as she remembered Daniel's words about promises and coming home. She had kept her promise. She had gone to Baltimore and become the nurse she'd dreamed of being. She had proven to herself that she was strong enough and brave enough to pursue her dreams even when the cost seemed unbearable. But more importantly, she had learned that the best dreams aren't the ones you pursue. Alone, they're the ones you build with the people you love, the ones that make room for everyone to grow and flourish and become their best selves together. What are you thinking about? Daniel asked, spinning her gently as the music changed to something slower and more romantic. I'm thinking about that night at Romano's, Clara said, letting herself be drawn close against his chest. About how you said sometimes the best things happen when we least expect them. And I'm thinking that you were right. I went to that restaurant thinking my life was over, and instead I found my whole future. Clara smiled up at him, her heart full of love and gratitude, and the quiet certainty that comes from being exactly where you belong. I found my family. We found each other, Daniel corrected softly, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Yeah, Clara said, closing her eyes and letting herself be held by this man who had seen her at her worst and chosen to love her anyway. We did. As the evening settled around them, friends and family continued to celebrate in the garden that had become the heart of their home. Lily ran between the adults, collecting hugs and stealing bites of cake, her pink dress grass-stained and her hair coming loose from its careful styling. She was gloriously, perfectly happy, a child who had watched her family grow from 2 to 3 and knew with absolute certainty that she was loved. Later, after the guests had gone home and the dishes had been cleared away, the three of them sat on the porch swing that Daniel had installed the week before the wedding. Lily was curled between them in her pajamas, fighting sleep, because she didn't want the perfect day to end. "Tell me the story again," she mumbled against Clara's shoulder. "What story, sweetheart? About how you and Daddy met, about the restaurant, and the $5, and how you became part of our family." Clara glanced at Daniel over Lily's head, sharing the smile of two people who knew they would be telling this story for the rest of their lives to children and grandchildren, and anyone who would listen to a tale about love and second chances, and the beautiful way broken things can be made whole again. Once upon a time, Clara began, her voice soft in the gathering darkness. There was a girl who thought she had lost everything. She went to a restaurant with only $5 in her purse and a heart full of disappointment, never knowing that the worst night of her life was about to become the beginning of her greatest adventure. And then what happened? Lily asked sleepily, even though she knew the story by heart. And then Daniel continued, his arm tightening around both his wife and daughter. A man at the next table saw that she needed someone to remind her that she wasn't alone in the world. So he invited her to dinner, and they talked, and they fell in love, and they all lived happily ever after. The end. Lily sighed contentedly. No, sweetheart, Clara said, pressing a kiss to the top of Lily's head. Not the end. The beginning. And as the stars appeared one by one in the darkening sky above their home, Clara knew with absolute certainty that she was right. This wasn't an ending, it was the start of everything they had dreamed of building together. A family, a future, a love story that would last a lifetime. The $5 bill was long gone, spent on subway fare and forgotten in the rush of everything that followed. But the miracle it had set in motion continued to unfold day by day in the laughter that filled their home, and the love that bound them together, and the quiet certainty that sometimes when you least expect it, everything can change. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, it changes for the better.